I'm better. Don't ever say I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. I never said I'm better. I'm better. I'm better. I'm better than you. All the corners of the buildings. Who but we remember these? The sidewalks and trees. I'm thinking now. I got a better way. I discovered the star. I got a better way. Ready, set, go. I got a better way. I'm looking at the star. I got a better way. Ready, set, go. I got a better way. The stars in your eyes. I got a better way. Ready, set, go. I got a better way. I discovered the star. I got a better way. Ready, set, go.
Then you might pull me up on the recordings I made earlier today about how if Roger told how I'm happy to challenge Gary Camps and Roger told to a gentleman's fist fight on the lawns of Palmer House. I'll do that if that's there, since they're a private sector company and they're so above the everything federal rights act or whatever, and they don't have to wear Freemasons uniforms. They can. Roger can wear his Roman toga. He hates terms like impersonation, so he's got to be. Look at all the stores he's created. He's got to. If Canberra would like to see Emperor Nero, Roger Toll's the closest thing. So the offer is there, and there could be two of them versus just one of me. That'll be fine. That'll be the. We'll call it the. No, I didn't make you an offer in 2010, Roger. You received no offer from me. So you therefore know what you did was unconstitutional. So we already know I knew you were no it wasn't self-evident in you that you're an admiral for the Rights Charter. Or, you're too private sector. But you're also the closest thing to Emperor Nero that Canberra's ever seen. So why not wear your toga? Gary Camps can wear his Kiss makeup, dress like Gene Simmons from Kiss, and it'll be the two of you versus me. And I'd be prepared to do that. But yeah, I'm talking about a so it's just insulting because so there was some juvenile moments before puberty, but after that, and that's why incidentally there's been there have been no physical fights since age 12. I mean, where I haven't been on the receiving end. Whether I said anything smart ass to antagonize. It took me a while to learn. I could run my mouth like a smart ass. That in high school, and girls, I got beaten up one occasion by a girl who, she really impressed me. Even then, I had the ability to endure a beating and not be necessarily a complainer against skill to kick my ass. I was disrespectful, so I deserved something. But I got blood pissing outside of my head because he slammed my head into a desk corner. But yeah, if you've got a theory of me going out to do a bit of the ultra violence, a la Clockwork Orange, your theory is essentially pedo incest. It's a pedo incest theory you'd be operating by, or you would go, well, then Luke's childhood gives him every reason to be deterred from violent behavior, so he'll try to talk in ways and negotiate that of violent, or it seems to be escalating into a potentially violent conflict situation. He'll say what he can to prevention is better than obscure. So, yeah, I mean, ankle tapping that guy, I didn't even trip him over when I was chasing that shoplifter. I was just trying to, I couldn't even tackle him properly. I think in that respect, the high security were more violent than me. But yeah, I'm talking about, I guess, a kind of violent, serious violent self-harm, serious violent harm, instigated by me and imposed on another. It would suggest that the most I guess heartbreaking moment of early childhood. The theory has to be that it didn't serve as a deterrent for me, and instead it was an incestuously charged inspiration where the love of violence was so great that I couldn't afford to ignore it. And that's why I've had no problem with it. That's why I've enjoyed a lot of fantasy violence in video games. I would like the classification though, just because there are nitpickers who will go, well, that's fantasy violence, so anyone playing it must be having secret violent fantasies, and things like that aren't necessarily true. I use terms like synth violence or something. Yeah. So that's another thing. Christian thinkers too are the ones who think, oh, the sins of the father hand shall be passed down unto the third and fourth generation. So whatever worst sin that you can think of from your father, which sin was being equivocated with law, because the law of God was what you can get from the word of God. And the youth pastor would even say things like, obey the law of the land unless it interferes with the law of God. So when I started to come across these laws from God to say, keep all the virgins alive for yourselves, I'm like, well, hang on, the law of the land doesn't say you can do that. So that the law of the land therefore interferes with the law of God. Because the law of the land would say that rights much better for women. So if you found a virgin, and you could rape her and pay 50 shekels to her father, that's God's law, and that definitely interferes with the law of the land, because the law of the land would want to put a stop to it. And my youth pastor would actually say, in principle, no, obey the law of the land. Show some respect. He was like, show some respect for the law of the land. But if it ever gets in the way with what's clearly in God's word, then God's word takes precedence. And I think, offensive. So yeah, I'm going to go now, and I'm done making personal logs on this phone, and I might actually go. I feel like reading now some Simone de Beauvoir, but yeah, she was saying, "Don't burn the Sard. He's misunderstood. He's unappreciated, and he's not the best. He's not the greatest man." But his contribution to philosophy is quite unique, and I don't know if there'd be anything to try and mistake the claim that he was the first existentialist. I know that his thinking inspired Nietzsche. Nietzsche's certainly one of the most well-noted existentialists. That's a good question. Would decide to have been existentialists obviously not have paid quite close attention to him. But it's very clear, from books like The 120 Days of Sodom and these books that it's like he was the first to really tackle this issue that still permeates today. It's really important, I think, to society that hypocrisy is this hypocrisy that's allowing for these horrible situations to arise with, your George Pell, and that it doesn't. These men made they bartered themselves to society as men of certain caliber of responsibility. They did all the charity work. They did all the, it's a bit like it's worse given the nature of these sex offenses from religious leaders, but Mother Teresa was not, perfect either, in that you might say that's harsh, that I'm ripping at a saint who worked hard. She worked hard. I'm not saying she didn't, but I'm also saying she personally held the view that these poverty-stricken people were blessed by God, and that poverty was a blessing from the Lord. So they were blessed to be there, where Mother Teresa could care for them. So yeah, thinking that poverty. How dare you say that? It's like saying that AIDS, terminal illnesses are a gift from God because they're going to have the chance to enter the kingdom of heaven sooner than the rest of us, with mean life expectancies. So anyway, yeah, my merge EPUB with complete works of Martin Heidegger, the mentor to Jean-Paul Sartre, and then the letters and writings from Simone de Beauvoir, the girlfriend of Jean-Paul Sartre, as well. I've merged them all into one big fuck off EPUB book, and now I'm going to go read it. So I bid you, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. So then in saying what I was just saying about where I stand on violence, that's in the role I was typecast in the minds of various people's judgments, judgmentalism. as you know, the Pope to be. There were no conversations about, you know, defend yourself if someone's attempting to physically fight you or bash you. Maybe the law doesn't regard that to be. I get it. I don't get how they couldn't define it to be violent. Maybe they would say it's not a because it was the defense that it wouldn't be a crime. It's just no. You know, there's a sort of impediments to education that it is for people to take these statements about genetics causing, you know, my choice to, you know, you use toilet paper. Genes cause that. Yeah, or whatever they want to stretch it to next. Genes now cause. And another thing on this topic of the problem with sexual health definitions and communities, I think we're all part of, particularly in a place as small as Canberra, we're really all part of. I'm probably involved in communities I don't even know about yet, given how many communities there are to be involved in. So, you know, saying who are by necessity among, in strict relation to sexual health definitions, means that the converse is that we're not among others who are part of other communities distinguished by merit of their sexual health definitions, which is why I was saying, you know, well then, since a bisexual has to be part of a lesbian, gay, and transgender community, then, you know, to see that their rights are fairly observed, should have, if you get a job at a cubicle in a public service job and you're a bisexual, should have, the cubicle should have 2 seats on either side, with a lesbian and a gay at each side, and then a transgender person. I guess the transgender person could sit next to the bisexual, since the bisexuals are in between. I think that's how they can come up with the logistics of that. I'm just trying to say I think that yeah, it's almost as if they're trying to imply who one should consider a romantic relationship with on the with bisexuality. It's ridiculous. Yeah, and it's, you know, you could meet a prospective partner who's very interested in getting to know you, and you need to do something that like shows me, yeah, do something, go and do something bisexual, you know, or, you know, I can't buy you flowers. But yeah, you know, I think it would probably have to be Western white Christianity that's permeating that gets the greatest representation here. It's almost like the default of the theisms, and so yeah, it's always, you know, I keep trying to look for exceptions to this, and I wanted amongst the fundamentalists or the biblical literalists, the dogmatic, that they'll find bisexuality something that they are looking to cure, rather than it would take a lot for them to admit to even to the possibility that Jesus would have defended the bisexual rights movement if he were alive now. You don't even have to, claim he was bisexual. But a sensitivity to it. I've seen that same sort of. It's like it's a sensitivity that they have gone from, because and then you see the initiative from this youth ministry in a church where they're like making multimedia videos that try to address the issue of suicide in society, and how tragic it. And yeah, I would not ever mock anyone contending who struggles with even Manson uses describes certain observations as being truly fucking suicidal. So that's like, it doesn't actually. So it's not him saying I'm suicidal. I'm saying this looks suicidal, but it's so taboo. And I was once told by someone, if it's Australia, man, if you're don't ever be suicidal, because if you are, they'll just say, you're gone, man. I would wonder why that is, and why there isn't a more sensitive enough response to how to deal with this, because that would leave those that wrestle with suicide unsure who they can confide in with about it, because it's something they would be made to feel if were they to ever wrestle with it, that they would then have to hide it from everyone. There's the conflation of, I hate this conflationary question that I think is very bigoted, but I've heard it out of the horse's mouth. Been named to former esteemed management, the capital chemist. Are you intending to harm yourself or someone else? Like, they have to ask the two questions, like they go together. Like, you intending to harm yourself or someone else, or commandeer an Iraqi, an Islamic van and drive it into a brick wall so that it explodes on collision? I respectfully taking the question: are you in the feelings with which you are now struggling? Do you think you are nearing the point of actually wanting to take any positive action? Positive in this, like I was at positive atheism. You like to actually do anything to seriously harm yourself? And instead, I've been very insulted by this whole conflated all with everything from if this person's, we think they're suicidal, they must be laying down, surrendering an entire ideology, their ideological system. Now, once again, even as a philosopher of what is, for the vast majority of it, in a percentage sense, secular philosophers, non-theistic philosophers, if you've got a friend who's confides in you, saying they've been mistreated in certain ways that has left them wrestling with suicidal feelings, you might often find they won't be full of shit, and if you're just enough to be like a shoulder for them to cry on and to listen to them, the health benefits, the following day, within 24 hours, just because, well, wow, you mean the courtesy of listening to someone, get cumbersome emotions off their chest. Oh, well, here in Canberra with religious healthcare professionals, and that's why I think, so there's no possible chance that there was any, phenomenologically speaking, any elements of suicide in Jesus' psyche when he laid down his life and gave himself to us all and died for all of us. And, to me, it's a disrespectful. You think, poor Jesus, and what do you want to do? I almost want to say with him talking about Jesus to a person who does wrestle with suicidal is not necessarily a bad idea in principle. It's just that what you do in evangelical churches is you'd make it worse by saying, "Oh, you're suicidal? Oh, this guy died for you." If that was me, I would feel more suicidal. Because I don't know of the emotional state for, here's how you lay down your life and your ideological cause to everyone, and transfer your renewing second birth, born again causing emotional powers into a spirit, a non-linear, like DeLorean, Doc Brown and Marty McFly and Back to the Future. As soon as we can add the 1.21 gigawatts of electricity to the flux capacitor, then it's amazing what can be done just by listening to someone say what they are about. It's also when capital chemist people will go, well, we think this person might be contending with suicidal impulses or thoughts and feelings, and they'll straight away go, oh, what, he didn't get his way, he's just cry out for attention. Attention. Empathy from maybe a friend who would be cool for like a cup of tea and a 5-minute chat. Like, how they'll make things work. And who wants to be told at the same time, or someone else? Like, it's some of the sweetest, kindest people that can wrestle with these feelings. And when the society is telling them that they're wrong fundamentally and on a personal level, as if they weren't properly human for having encountered those horrible bouts and waves of that sort of frame of mind. It's just to say, there's the Cro-Magnon man that was around before the Homo sapiens, and it's not really a Homo sapien trait to ever have any suicidal thoughts or feelings. It doesn't really belong to the species. It's more of a Cro-Magnon. Actually, I think anthropologists have linked the earliest forms of religion to the Cro-Magnon men, incidentally. But so yeah, and then so they'll read some of these Gospels, and then not doing the same thing that I wish more of them would do it, is consider the ramifications of going, okay, Mark's Gospel first, Matthew, Luke, and John. You can see why Jesus might, he's copped a false charge. He's been wrongfully accused. He didn't even get to answer, no, I'm not the king of the Jews. He was like, we said it. Let's just say, can you keep going? I'm trying to understand where you're coming from here. And then, they want to put him to death for that. Suppose they broke his spirit, not that he placed his spirit into the hands of the Heavenly Father, who, when two angels went to the town of Sodom and Gomorrah, that's why this story made it into a Marquis de Sade book. Was that there's a story in the Bible where they go to the town of Sodom and Gomorrah, two angels representing God, and everyone known in the town of Sodom and Gomorrah was known for some really heathen behavior. And so the townspeople, Lot was considered to be the good guy in town. But if you read this Bible story, you'll find it's quite disgusting. These two angels come to the town, and the townspeople already spring up to greet the angels, and they were getting ready to rape these angels. So Lot was too proud of his town. He didn't want it to get the reputation for being a town of people that would rape angels. So Lot decides to offer his own daughters to them, for them, saying, "Well, please take my daughters instead," and he gives his daughters to these new arrivals so that they could rape his daughters, so that they didn't rape the angels, because that stood to tarnish the reputation of the town even more, were they to do the former. So if it's feelings of suicide, because that's obviously that's part of that's part of Jesus' the Christ's legacy to them. I would argue. I don't think there's much dignity in the Christian claims. I'm so proud of these persecuted first century early Christians who were ready to die for their cause. Many of them were just being. It's not that they were being persecuted. Persecuted is what they could say I was doing if my anti-theist arguments weren't well researched and written in respectful ways, as they are. I'm not disrespecting their faith. What I hate is when they go, "Oh yeah, we're not even going to bring it into the realms of discussion in a church that Jesus might have been suicidal carrying his cross up that hill. That his spirit was already broken then. It wasn't, well nailed into thy hands. I commit my spirit." Maybe he didn't hand his spirit to them at that point in time. I submit to you, he was most likely suicidal while carrying his cross up the hill. That is not don't expect that man to be your savior. And show respect for him. He's been dead 2,000 years, but no reason not to respect him on that account. There's every reason not to think he died for any of us. So yeah, and if they're a member of the bisexual rights movement or biopen, and it can be enough attrition from religionists, dogmatic, don't question your thinking. They can lead this sort of thing to happen, and then instead of being given just a bit of private space, just think one's own shit through, you'll have these, issue frame based, Roger Toll healthcare. Everybody needs us. Oh, you making me an offer? Like, fucking let me complete thought processes. Yeah, so suicide they seem sacrificing oneself to another. So yeah, I think I would think that they have a respectful comprehension of martyring is, do you feel this bad? Or maybe he's surrendering his ideological cause. What was his ideological cause? Well, from violating his privacy and reading through stuff on his computer, we arrived at the conclusion that he stands to be martyred because of his ideological cause. What is it? Has he told what? Find one friend on the planet's surface who has insisted to them, you must adopt this belief or belief system, and I will recruit you into it. I have not done that because, like I said, when I left the church, I was against what I now call the epistemology of theistic religion. So you don't quit the church. I quit while wondering, next I hope to find the right religion. Because the question, is there such thing as a right religion? Well, in monotheistic religions, there really can only be one right one, which means there's like 1,000 or 999 wrong ones. So, am I ready to go and search the other 999, or like, am I going to find more of the same shit there? Maybe I should look into how questions are sensibly structured and constructed, and what statements have more veracity than others. So that isn't like, I have a book called Against Ideology, and I was talking to Joe about that book. We both enjoy it. Because as I was saying, my own hot philosophy is really quite hodgepodge and minimal. I have what I feel is like a librarian-like attitude in the perusing of other philosophies. And so though I can speak on and on for hours, it seems, how many hours we don't know, but the deterioration webisodes, there's soon going to be more uploaded. And I'm interested to see how relevant it all might turn out to be. But yeah, this it just makes me sick, yeah, so none of what it's saying, it's not fair to say that these writers I'm pointing out merits and downfalls in, the differences in, and what might be a possible contribution to the lines of thinking started by certain noteworthy philosophers means that I'm a follower or a disciple of those philosophers. Even being a Marilyn Manson disciple, that is not to say I'm committed to the view that I have to agree with everything Marilyn Manson says. It's hard not to, because the man is fucking brilliant. But evidently it's harder for Roger to interpret Marilyn Manson art in a way that doesn't make well, it's he's really terrible at interpreting. And one reason is that he'll as his video profile interests. which you might say my career was with the Capital Chemist Group was like a wind up for them to make an initiative to think they could peg it on me. It just from the outset it has the foundational assumption, language of the type that talks about effect. I remember Ben Gilbert saying effects are the direct and inescapable results of their causes. And if you're talking about the elbow bones connected to the forearm, that's a bit different from it. So the TV is connected to Luke's cerebrum. But that's sort of what you'd wonder if you'd wonder how they couldn't be thinking in terms like that, to say that the TV is an it that affects Luke's mind. So Luke's mind is a byproduct of the TV acting on it. Not, Luke comprehends various actors and various individuals acting in various roles throughout a multitude of genres of different forms of television, television series, films, documentaries, philosophy debates, philosophy videos. All that requires to be appreciated. The thing is, like, they're trying to tell me that appreciation from TV and video is not a possible thing, because how can I appreciate it when it's just acting on my senses in a direct and inescapable way? It's like we're saying I'm written by the whatever's on the screen in front of me right now. I know what it is. It's not one. They did make some remarks about me in video that showed not enough to have elaborated clearly enough to say, well, this is definitely about an issue, and we would definitely like to talk it through with you. Instead, it was like an intertwined with the fact that you're in this trial period, which took up 8 3/4 years of the 9 years that I worked for them. And don't get me started on how wound up you feel by that. It's actually a horrible thing. Maybe I should have said to them something like, well, look, signed document back employee status, or I'll go elsewhere. Just because of what I've learned can happen, the way that rights can be squandered and raped in a way, because it's what you do get sort of bonded to. These are bonds that you don't want. They're like bonds that you want to tamper with by inventing new chemicals, carbon atom bonds and chemistry bonds, spraying chemistry bonds, and those become overly exaggerated in relation to how much. It's not that I didn't mind knowing people who I work for and having them know me in a personal capacity to some extent. It's that extent was over exaggerated because I was having to be the one to prove myself that I deserved. I deserved, even if it wasn't going to be a full-time position for any sort of promised minimal amount of time, but something where I'd signed something so that rights were more clearly, given they're a private sector company, and given that there's nothing like putting someone on the Mental Health Act. It's great, everyone loves it, especially those on it, it's not a deterrent for anyone to want to do things like leave the whole town. No, it can't possibly be that. But for me, it meant, getting to know, it's like going, oh, boss, it's not that I'm not enjoying the process of getting to know you. It's just that I know that this sort of personal level interest that I'm showing in, it's not that my friendship was contrived either, or my professional friendship was ingenuine. It was just that it was the only means I understood I could deal realistically, because it's in their minds I'm wanting to show that they can trust me well enough. They could fire me at any time. They wouldn't have to. I would be, informal enough to say, if you just want me gone by a particular amount of time, and those who have signed employee documents maybe they have certain rights where they can't be asked to go in a minimum amount of time or something. Like, I said, if it makes you happier, it gives me more time to chill a bit before finding another job, I'll find something to say I agreed to go now. It's just that I would have that paperwork there to go, well, this is the definition of me as an employee, not, kiss as much boss's asses as you can. Because then also I know that they're all going, well, what if he's just being this polite because he wants to increase his chances of getting the full-time job contract offer? I just thought, and to do that for 8 nights of at least of your careers, like I was overwhelmed by this. Oh, I'm so exhausted. Like those dexamphetamine speed pills were actually helping me to sleep. Taking, a strong dose. And that was just after getting asked to sign the Elizabeth Brand. I wish you'd sat down with me to talk through what the employment agreement said. That she just handed me the document and she walked off elsewhere and expected me to sign it. It was such a big shift that I wanted someone there to sit by with me, and surely she could have clicked and gone, well, he's been here for years. Now we finally offered him a permanency document. Doesn't he want to know and understand what it means unequivocally? The answer is sure, I would have. And it would have been a nice gesture on her behalf to be the manager and my boss and then sit with me as I filled out the sign-up form. But I felt so tired within a short amount of time. I didn't realize that's what it was. It's because now it's over. It was almost sociopathetic. Because your focus is on people. It's really on people who have the hiring, firing, formalizing, officiating power. They're the ones you want to impress, and you end up learning and so it would annoy. I'd grit my teeth when they would be like, oh, and I used to go to the Christian school, and sometimes they would pick on people, and they'd often pick on me. And I'm like, you're the one, are you sure you want to whinge to me about stuff like this? They're telling me about their insecurities, and I'm proving to them that I should have a secured job. It's the feeling of getting to know staff management members too much for the wrong reasons. Because you can't say I'm not getting to know you as well as I am, in part on some level and to some extent, because I don't want the permanency offer. I obviously do, but I'm not sure what magical feats do I need to do. You've already told me I'm the most versatile member of your staff team. I'm interestingly also the one to not have a permanency offer made. So how versatile is that? I mean, yeah. No. Yeah, but I mean, it's a joy to get to know your colleagues and your boss. But yeah, I mean, it's a privilege, but it does feel like you surely got to figure that they figure that you kiss their asses if you could, if you thought it would increase your chances of getting the permanency offer. And so then you have to say to myself, like, I have to say to myself, well, am I kissing their ass, or am I just being friendly? I yeah. Anyway, uh, it's the private sector. They, uh, yeah. Um, Floor unto themselves. Law unto themselves. Private sector. Right. Right. Anyway. Okay, that's it. I'm too tired now. No more personal logs. Start at 84576.2. That's 7 minutes. Fuck it. No. We're done. Even the old theory I had that Roger's a person who prefers to lay low and not care about notable Australians or any sort of recognition like that. Lay low and do deals. I don't get why, even if he thinks that way. Well, he can't even think that way. So, all right. By the time there is justice, he will have to, I guess, answer questions to his own staff. I try and think about it from his perspective. He says he does corrective work, or fancies himself a correctionist, but you never hear him talk about framing the issue, or you'll gain proofs that he invaded your privacy to misinterpret your art on your behalf, and falsely flagged you as a person of concern or interest. And he genuinely won't comprehend how he would ever interpret art, your art, or even think it. He uses the word like sentences, phrases. I thought ... when what is appropriate is I assumed, and I falsely assumed. He should definitely say he thinks he's earned his way up, that sufficient that he can just say, oh well, I just thought, and excuse himself from anything. So it's like assume isn't in his vocabulary, yet he's a scientist. He's a scientist yet to learn of the word assume. I've decided I'll be going forwards. You know, I can deal with people with different perspectives, philosophically speaking. No problem, but it's that well, it was the most basic idea of Holmesian deductive analytical thought. Eliminate the impossible, and then whatever else remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth, closer to the truth. And so Roger thinks this investigative mind that doesn't even understand that idea from a children's fiction. Instead, he'd rather think of the stupid Masonic Church and delude himself into thinking that modern rock artists are really singing and pioneering new genres of heavy metal music to glorify his stupid hidden church. Don't even bother calling him oxymoronic. He'll think he used that word as a side effect of a narcotic. Was that oxy? Oh, oxymoron. What's that? Is that the generic brand? So yeah, now in all his genius, he's discovered that video is making fostering dangerous minds. Then you'll see him at the staff conference in the Roman toga, wearing a Caesar like or Nero like what are those pussy crowns of gold leaves, dancing like a puss to More Than a Feeling by Boston. What's More Than a Feeling, Roger? So, they do say beauty is only skin deep. He doesn't have to beat himself up that hard about the incestuous pig rape face of his. If I had his face, I would be humble. I'd be more humble than